Hey, Danu.
Hey,
Hello.
Julian.
Hey,
Hey.
how's it
Hi.
going?
Oh, it's okay. I'm I had just had another bout with my little sunburned face kind of thing.
Oh,
So I've been molting.
okay. Shedding some layers.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting ready for spring, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's April. Happy April.
I know. I know.
Exciting.
And somebody already fooled me. Someone told me that the Trump just opened a new store. Somebody opened a Trump store next to the custard store.
Oh, really? And you bought it?
Yeah, yeah, he sent me a picture and everything.
Wow.
I was like, oh, what?
Well, Matthew and I were considering pranking Parab tonight, but we didn't
Yeah,
get
you
it put
should.
together in time.
Oh, yeah, no, it would be a good one.
We were
If
thinking of like saying that we decided to turn like Memorial Park into kind of like a carnival and just install like a Ferris wheel and merry-go-round and all sorts of stuff.
sure.
In place of the cannon, of course.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be a great idea. Tim would love that.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'm gonna mute really quick. I'm finishing making dinner for my stepson, so I'll be right back, okay?
Yeah. Okay, Jillian.
Hey, Matthew.
Hello, Jillian.
I heard that the grave you dug today was pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah? It
Yeah,
was
I need to
a
go
hole in
check
the
it out in
ground.
the morning. Well, as long as it fits, the purpose, I think you crushed it. So good job.
Oh, thank you. It's good to learn these things.
Definitely.
Hey, Candace?
Hi, just writing down who I have so far. Are
Good.
these just, when you see these names, that mean those people are here?
That's correct.
Okay. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. You?
Good.
Good. You did a good job on the minutes.
Thank you. Actually, what's her name? I'm sorry.
Uh,
Christina.
Chris, yeah.
Chris did the first like half of them. So I want to make sure she gets yeah, some credit for that.
You bet. Yep, so far we have Dave Crawford and Tim and you and I. And we just need, well, I know Chris and Rebecca. Jan isn't gonna make it tonight, and also Colin can't make it tonight.
Colin nor Jan.
Correct.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. It makes it easier.
You bet.
Hello.
Mia,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you can make it tonight.
Yeah, me too. Justin will not be able to make it, but I am here.
Okay, great. Great. Rebecca's here too. So we have a quorum. Let me just wait a little bit longer for Chris.
What about Anthony?
Oh yeah, Anthony too. Haven't heard from him.
Okay, well, maybe he'll show up. And Rebecca,
Yep, Rebecca's here.
is she?
Yep, Rebecca's
Oh.
here.
Whoop, didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah,
One
Tim's
way or
here.
another.
Okay, show
Oh, I see
yourself,
her.
Rebecca.
Show thyself.
Yeah, hey, hi.
Yeah.
And Dave Crawford. It's been a while, Dave.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got some family stuff going on. I've got a stepmom that's got dementia, so I'm kind of living in Chicago right now.
Oh wow. Does she remember you?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that's
we're declining pretty fast. So yeah, we just got her moved into a facility, so that should help me get back home.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that still takes a ton of effort. So don't forget to take care of yourself.
Uh, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hard.
Sure is.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting at 6:02. Perib's regular meeting on April Fool's Day. I got pranked today, you guys. So someone told me that somebody opened a Trump shop next to the custard store. They sent me a picture of everything, Trump 2024 on the outside of the building. I was like, what?
I wish I had played that trick.
It was. He totally took me in. Yeah.
In Manitou of all places.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so our approval of agenda. I'd like to make the change or to add in the council liaison. That one that got left out of our agenda to follow the number 2 Parks and Rec. So if we could insert the council liaison report after Park and Rec report. That's the only change I'd like to make to the agenda. And if I could get a motion to approve our agenda with the one amended agenda.
I'll approve.
Okay, thank you. Second. I'll second. And then we're moving to the approval of our draft minutes from March 4, 2024. There's only one correction that I would just like to add in there, which is that Jillian isn't going to be making the edits and changes to our amended minutes, but rather that would be Candace who would make the changes of any kind of things that we need to change in our minutes. Or else I can, if I catch them, I'll change them too. And then they have to be, the amended minutes have to go back to Alicia. Printed up with the correct changes. Other than that, I don't have anything else. So I'm open to entertaining a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll approve.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. I'll second. Okay, do we have anybody, public comment on non-agenda items? I don't think so. If not, let's move right on to our presentations. Tonight we have Mia Requins doing our Soda Springs Park Phase 2 design and construction drawings. And these are our completed drawings that she's gonna run through real quick for everybody. So if you wanna share a screen or Jillian, do you wanna share a screen?
I have it open if you want me to share.
Sure, go ahead, Mia.
Okay. All right, so this is sort of a condensed version of what we submitted for our 100% CD contract document set. And this is really just to bring everybody back on the same page of some of the things that we've worked through and where we landed, and just to share what the playground and surrounding site is looking like. So I'm going to just really quickly zoom in. This is the area that is phase 2, which, as we all know, phase 1 is complete, and this is just an extension in Soda Springs Park, which includes new playground equipment, some extended Crusher Finds walkways, and some additional ADA accessibility features that we've added. So just to jump to a nice colored rendering, which will help you visualize what is new and what's existing. So just really briefly, starting from west to east, we've added basically punching a hole through the retaining wall of the west side of the playground, which allows us to have ADA access into this space. What the biggest goal, and just to step back for a second, we wanted to preserve as many trees as possible and to protect the root zones of those trees. And so that was sort of the driving factor of any of the changes and improvements that we did to this playground. And we worked pretty closely with Matthew, our Manitou arborist expert, just to make sure that we were doing everything as much as possible to keep the use zones of any new play equipment as far from damaging any trees in this area. So just as a caveat, as I'm talking through this, that was one of our biggest goals through this process. Okay, so back to the site. We have ADA accessibility to an existing picnic table. We're leaving the concrete around that picnic table as is, and we're just adding a little bit of walkway concrete around it and replacing the concrete steps in that area just to make sure that they're meeting code, adding a couple little handrails on each side and making sure this is nice and accessible. The playground equipment itself, I'll show a later slide of what all of that's looking like, but we have a woodland fort climber with some little mushroom steppers, a little spinner here, preserving the trees around those areas, keeping the existing disc swings as they are in place. Adding a brand new play tower with some additional slide and climbing options along the outer exterior of it. We have a 2 to 5-year-old little mini climber next to the large 5 to 12-year-old climber. So that has a little, it's like a little mountain shape climber right next to it. And then keeping the existing spinner as it is. Now, anyone who knew the background of what was approved by City Council, this is very, very similar to what was shared. The only difference being there was one spinner and one additional little climber for the 2 to 5-year-old pieces that were taken out in order to preserve the trees. Because if we were to keep what we shared during City Council, we would have impacted the trees a little more than desired. So still keeping as much play value as possible. We worked pretty hard to come to this final plan, and everyone was pretty excited that we were to keep the main features of the play space and to keep a spinner and keeping the age range options in that play space as well. So I think we came to a pretty good consensus on this area. A lot of the existing boulders are kept in place as well. So that's what these kind of gray geometric shapes are. We've moved a couple out of the way just to be able to get a climber here, and the use zone of this space pushed a couple boulders out of the way as well. But in general, all of the boulders, excluding the ones I just pointed out, were kept in place. We also have a new ADA accessible what we're calling just an access point into the play area here. So we have an access point on the west side and an access point on the east side now. So we have full accessibility into both ends of the playground. We also have, in order to get the grades to work a little bit, we have to replace a little bit of the concrete here to get to that ADA access point. And before I get into the south side of the site, we also have a brand new bike rack, which can have 4 bikes parked at it at one time. And it's placed on a little Crusher Finds soft surface area and a little additional fencing along the backside, just because there's a little bit of a drop from the bike rack area down into the lower end here. We also have worked with our civil engineers to create a new ADA accessible access point through here. If anyone remembers from the plan that we initially showed City Council, this walkway used to extend around and connect through this area, but there was a lot of concern about what that does to the existing trees in this space, and we didn't want to impact the root zones. And it was a very tight fit to get the grades to work. And so with all those concerns, we decided to poke a hole through the existing retaining wall here in order to gain ADA access to a couple brand new ADA parking spaces as well. So we worked really closely with everyone here, and it actually ended up working out pretty nicely, just having this ADA access point into the park. We also have a brand new Crusher Finds walkway connection that matches sort of the same Crusher Finds walk and concrete mow band edge that we did in phase 1, and just continuing that walkway down and around in front of the pavilion and connecting to this picnic area over here. So we have that access as well. We did encounter some challenges with the grading of this area. If anyone's been in this park, they may have noticed that there's a little bit of drainage and stormwater that collects here. We worked with Civil to create 2 area drains just to the west of that low point. And we've basically collected new under drains from the playground to collect water from the playground, as well as water from this space as well, and connecting to the downspouts of the existing pavilion, which were not currently functional. So all of that water is now being collected, so there's less of a chance of water collecting on site and draining down into the Fountain Creek down here. And we've also added some new planting along the planting beds along Park Avenue, as well as some additional new ornamental fencing, which matches the same ornamental fencing that you see throughout the park against Fountain Creek. So similar little extension of fencing and planting and new irrigation as well. And I believe that was kind of a really quick overview of the site, but I'll just pause for just a quick moment if anyone has any questions before I share additional bits about the playground equipment and planting plan and things like that.
Anybody questions for Mia? Mia, I have one little piece here.
Sure, Dan.
You know that the landscaping plan that
Yeah.
shows that whole section that is right before where we break through that one wall where the picnic table is, where we're gonna have to redo the walkway.
over here?
With the handrail? No, on the west end. Yeah, right there. Yeah, now it's the farthest west planter.
This one?
Yeah, that one. I would prefer if we didn't touch that, because a lot of volunteers really put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that area, and there's a lot of beautiful irises that some volunteers from one of the local churches planted there, and they put the funding out to buy the iris bulbs, and then there's some really nice perennials that have been doing really well there too. So it'd be
Okay.
great if we could just maybe where the wall kind of is going to get taken out,
Mm-hmm.
from that point over to the east, if you wanted to kind of start your planter bed there and just leave all that other existing west bed in place, that would be great.
Yeah, it
Because I
looked
think
like
we had,
there were some things planted
Yeah.
there that we noticed. We weren't sure the condition of them and what the irrigation was doing in that area. I think there's
Mhm.
some, I guess if we're going to preserve some of that area, maybe we stop any new irrigation improvements up to that point.
Right. Now, I would need to verify if that irrigation drip system is still working or not.
Okay.
But when we did do all that work, they did tie into a couple of, or they put in some new water valves down
Okay.
in that west area. So, but
Yeah,
again, we'd
that's
have to verify
that's a good
that.
comment. If that wants to be preserved as is, we can definitely take that out of the scope.
Okay, yeah. Just because a lot of people been working on that, including myself. And the
Mm-hmm.
Boy Scouts have done a lot of work, and then some church groups, and yeah, so
Okay. Yeah, good comment. Well, I'll just continue on, and if anyone has comments, just hop in, let me know, and we can save a little spot at the end too for comments as well. I'll just keep on hopping through. So I just included this as basically what we shared during the construction document set. So a lot more detail as far as information of every little aspect of the design. So I won't go through all of this. I kind of walked through all of it on the previous slide, just but wanted to include this in case one of you wanted to read into it a little bit closer. The next slide, this is just a quick little diagram that we shared with the construction document set as well, just to show the areas of engineered wood fiber, which is the playground surfacing within the playground that needs to be at a minimum of 12 inches deep to support the fall zones of that equipment. Everything in orange is where existing equipment is to remain, but where the depths are not currently meeting CPSC safety requirements for the 12 inches of depth. So we're basically excavating a little deeper in order to get that 12 inches of EWF safety surfacing. Everything in blue is new equipment that's being added to the site and where we're also meeting that 12 inches of EWF depth. Everything that has a little slash through it, these little slashed areas, are where we're overlapping into the drip zones of trees, and we've minimized these as much as possible and have come up with a plan with Matthew to make sure when construction is happening, he has his eyes on the site, making sure that roots are taken care of, and we're doing everything possible to minimize those impacts to those trees that are existing. So I just wanted to share this study, and we've went through a few different iterations of this to come to this final plan. Everything that's dashed in this gray line, also I'll note that this is the under drain layout, and any of these new areas of equipment or even existing equipment, we have a little under drain system to collect that water and bring it to the creek, like I mentioned. Okay. And then this is our planting plan. And like Danu mentioned, maybe we take this piece of it out of the scope. But we did coordinate with the pollinator list that's on the Manitou pollinator organization, I guess, that's within Manitou, and made sure we included lots of different pollinator species, keeping the palette fairly minimal because it's not a very big site as far as new planting. We have a few ornamental grasses, a few perennials, and a few shrubs that work really well in this area. We also worked around any existing planting that's on site or any existing trees or utility boxes or equipment, boulders. There's a few things happening in those planting beds, and we've worked around all of those and added new planting to basically the open gaps that are happening in there, and coordinated with our irrigation consultant to make sure we have drip line irrigation going to those new areas as well. We have some native seed also throughout the site in areas that were disturbed. And so in order to meet our erosion control requirements, we have some native seed, same native seed mix that was provided on phase 1 that we know works pretty well. So that same seed mix is being applied to phase 2 as sort of a temporary erosion control option until phase 3 occurs and this area in the middle becomes sod. And then the most fun part is playground equipment. So we worked with a couple different manufacturers. We had Compan, which provided the existing spinner on site, and we worked with them to get a really cool Spica spinner, which is the one that's right here. And so that particular spinner, you can have multiple kids kind of hang on, as you can see, and spin. And you can either sit or hold on and spin around that way. And then ID Sculpture is a really cool company out in Boulder that specializes in rock climbing and basically structures that are formed by hand and painted by hand, and they do a really great job making things look realistic. And so they are providing this Woodland Fort, really cool wood sculpture with some additional mushroom steppers that are very cute and tie into that bigger structure. IDS was also the same company that provided the big boulder climber on phase 1, if you're familiar with that. So they're a very high quality company that makes a really great product. As I mentioned, the disc swings here in the middle are going to stay in place. And then this tower is by Earthscapes, a really cool company that does wood structures. And as part of that structure, we have a plastic slide coming off of it, as well as a metal slide pointing north, so it won't get quite as much direct sunlight, so it'll be mostly in the shade. And then there's also a few additional little climber pieces, a wood climber going up to the second level, some handhold climbers on one of the sides where kids can climb up using sort of the typical rock climber handholds, and then a fire pole that's also coming off of the side so kids can either climb up or slide down and climb up to the different levels of the structure. The little climber that I mentioned here for the 2 to 5-year-old kids, we have this image to represent that little tree or mountain climber that has little handholds going up on both sides. Kids can crawl underneath, and it's just a cool little natural wood climber that looks really nice in that space. Oh, I also included this image of what the bike rack would look like. So we're going to coordinate with the city and make sure that the Manitou logo gets added to the middle of this front bike wheel as well. So it'll be kind of a neat little sculptural bike rack. And just to share a few things that will be worked out throughout the bidding and ordering phase. We haven't really worked through colors just yet, but just to let you know, the Earthscape structures, the tower and the little tree climber do come in customizable colors. And so we can work together to come up with either a really neat palette that probably matches equipment that you already have on site, so everything looks a little more tied together. But you have some freedom there to make it really pop. And the plastic slides come in various colors as well. So it's just a really neat little addition to just a plain wood color. And that is it. If anyone has questions, I can hop back to the colored plan or stay here.
I have a question. This is Tim Bresnahan.
Hi, Tim.
In the caption there by the slide, you said curved metal slide. Is metal slide an option? I would say that if it is, my
That is a
preference
good
would
catch.
be a metal slide over a plastic slide for a standpoint of durability. We certainly have had some issues with plastic slides. Existing absence of plastic slide to support that.
I will say that this was a typo. We did not catch that. That meant to say curved plastic slide here. So one curved plastic slide and one metal. The reason we had, well, a couple of reasons. One being that this slide is in a little bit more of direct sunlight, and we were a little concerned that it would get too hot for kids sliding through it. The other being cost. The metal slides do cost a bit more. So we were trying to work through some of that during the cost estimate. and making sure we were staying within budget. But if that is a concern for the rest
I
of the
mean,
group, we can
I would love
we
to
can
hear
talk
what
about
everybody
it.
else thinks about that, but I would like to see the cost difference because I feel like replacing plastic slides is something that we do fairly often
Mhm.
because they don't last, especially in our environment with our son. And I think if it's an enclosed slide, like a tubular slide, like it's pictured, I'm not sure temperature would be an issue unless the kid is on the outside of the slide, which I think would actually be a good learning opportunity. But and I also believe that there is, maybe it's not super common, so I could be mistaken, but I think that plastic slides are more likely to catch shoes and cause lower extremity injuries compared to a more slippery metal slide. So those are the reasons why I would prefer it, but primarily due to durability. I feel like we are often looking at replacing metal slides. I mean, sorry, plastic slides.
Right.
Of course, if the manufacturer is no longer making that plastic slide, then you're completely out of luck.
See if the photo, there were some photos on, oh, here's one. There was a photo online that showed the configuration of the metal slide is a little bit different as well. So we'd have to make sure that fits within that space. But I believe we did explore multiple options and I think it does fit within the space. So if it fits within budget, does everyone else share the same concerns?
And I would also like to say, and I should have said this first, I love everything else that you've put up there. I see a lot of great thought and effort put into this. I like the natural elements, using some local designers. It's really, really a cool design. And thank you very, very much for putting that together.
Absolutely. Let's see if I can quickly pull up just a quick picture of that metal slide. Any other thoughts on the slide?
Hey Mia, this is Jillian. I would
Jillian.
I would want our parks manager to weigh in on this also. I know he was in support of one plastic slide, one metal slide.
Mhm.
So before we lean heavy either way, I'll make sure to get Brad's input on that.
Thank you so much. This is Rebecca. It looks great. I'm so excited for this project. I would second Tim's comment as long as it can be covered because it gets hot on those metal slides if you've ever gone down one. And two, you can pick up some quick speed if you're not careful with those. So as long as it's covered, I'd be happy with that.
Okay.
This is Chris. Yeah, I guess I'm just curious about other communities in the area and like what their experience has been with metal slides and you know, yeah, the heat factor. I remember when this park used to have a metal slide. In fact, I went down it. One other question I have, if it's okay if I bring up a different topic.
Sure.
Oh, there's a metal slide.
Really
That's
quick, here's
cool.
that same tower with what the metal slide would look like. So it's a little less curvy and a little bit more direct, straight down. So here's the curvy slide, and there's a plastic slide there too, but this is pretty close to what we were just discussing as far as what that would look like.
I love everything about that. Thanks.
Okay. Christina, you said you had another question?
I do. The area with the bike rack or
Mhm.
the bike racks. First of all, I'm glad we're including some bike parking. I guess my question is, will they be sort of going parallel with the sidewalk?
They will, yeah. So they're actually, I can show you. No, maybe this isn't as clear as I thought it would be, but the bike rack is kind of parallel with the sidewalk, and then a bike basically on each, two bikes on each end of the bike rack. So on the two on
Okay.
the front, two on the back.
So we don't have a ton of room there to work with, is what it seems like.
If you wanted to add more, is that what you're-
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is I still would love to see a bike ride station in this park. Um, and the reason why I would like that is because if you don't park a bike at a bike ride station, you charge up time. So I don't know. I just feel like our parks in Manitou should promote pedestrian and bicycle traffic, and we're not really promoting it if we don't provide parking for those things. But this is bike parking, which is great. I guess I just wish it were a bike ride station. And if anyone else wants to support that idea, please speak up.
I'll also note that this little rectangle here is the existing bike rack that's on the site that would remain in place. It's like the little green hoop. I think you can fit maybe 2 bikes at that station, which isn't a ton more than what you're talking about, Christina, but just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Cool.
And Danu, I know you know a little more history on the Pike Ride discussions. There have been some discussions on whether this is a big enough space to add those Pike Ride stations. I think we explored a couple spots, including one over near the bathroom, and then maybe one at the far west end of the park. And then I think we talked, I think another spot somewhere else. But those do take up a significant amount of space, and I think it was ultimately decided maybe this wasn't the right space for it, but
Right. That's what I recall as well. But there's still that possibility, Chris, to
mhm.
find a place somewhere on the west side that would be a better location than in Soda Springs Park.
As a backup thought, Christina, are you thinking if Pike Ride would not be able to come to this park, would you like to see additional bike racks that just support regular little parking? And maybe that also gets incorporated into phase 3 because there's space in phase 3 that we could also consider additional bike racks for the site as well.
Yeah, I think there's some bike lockers that were in the plan over by the bathrooms,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah, we had talked about adding a few in this area
Yeah.
here.
I still am, my opinion is that a bike ride station would be optimal, but yeah, but additional bike parking is never a bad idea. I think those green ones that are kind of scattered all over town, they don't really look like bike racks, so I don't think people really know what they are. And they don't get used very often.
That might also be because we don't have a lot of people that are taking their bikes to Manitou. Or they're like me and they're terrified about putting their bike in any public place.
Right, that's why I think the bike ride is a better option because it's not your own bike and it locks very securely and you don't have to really worry. It's a good option for tourists for sure.
It would be an interesting to survey to see how many of our tourists actually know how to ride a bike. I would like that. Seems like an opportunity. We should branch off from kids on bikes and do like Manitou tourists on bikes.
You gotta come over someday, Tim, and spectate from my house, because we get
I'm there. When you invite me, I'll come. I'll bring some beverages. We'll have a good time. Perfect
the
course
people who
for it.
rent e-bikes come through this way quite a bit. It's entertaining.
I love that.
Okay, anybody else
Okay.
for Mia? Any other questions, input?
Again, well done. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. This has been a group effort.
Okay.
All right. I will stop sharing. And Jillian, let me know after you coordinate with Brad on your slide conversation what direction we want to go there.
Will
You know,
do.
Jillian, I know that Brad was in favor of one plastic and one metal. He was in favor of, because his concern was that if that enclosed slide was metal, he was worried about it getting too hot. I know that was one of his
We
concerns.
need to talk to Brad. If it's in the shade, it won't be hot.
Well, the
And
one,
dark
one,
plastic gets hot also. But anyway, we should have that
Yeah.
conversation another time
we
with Brad.
should.
That shouldn't
Yeah.
be the deciding factor.
Well, it sounds like it would be the cost differential.
But yeah, we need to see that. But
Yeah.
I hate to think about replacing another plastic slide in a few years. We've been there too many times.
Okay, so
Okay, valid concern.
anybody else? Okay, Mia, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mia.
I'll go ahead and hop off, let you guys continue.
Thank you, Mia. It looks great.
Thank you all. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Okay, Matthew, we have under reports our arborist report. You want to talk a little bit about Arbor Day and any other little updates you might have?
Sure. So yeah, we are doing Arbor Day on Friday, April 26th this year. That is the actual Arbor Day. Moved it off Saturday, the 27th, because there's a couple other events going on that weekend, creek cleanup and all the pollinator bits and bobs. So we're planning for that Friday. If anybody would like to join us, we're going to plant a bunch of trees in the cemetery. We were awarded, I think I mentioned it before, but the Colorado Tree Coalition gave us a grant. So they're going to pay for half of about 25 trees to plant in the cemetery. So that's very exciting. So in April, we're going to be planting a bunch of trees all around town. We're probably looking at 100, 150 trees this year. It's going to be a heavy lift, but we're looking forward to it. We have a lot of storm damage from that heavy spring snow. So we're going to be working through that, tree pruning and occasional removals and, just getting things out of the road has been quite a task, but we are making progress. For our next meeting, I'm going to have a couple of tree risk assessments for y'all to look at. We have a couple of trees that are pretty concerning, and if anybody wants to come along with us on that tree risk assessment to kind of see how we make these determinations and assess trees, we'd be happy to have anybody along. So that's what I have.
Okay, any questions for Matthew?
Hey, Matthew, real quickly, will you mention the volunteer training that the Butterfly Pavilion is putting on this weekend?
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. So the Butterfly Pavilion is going to be putting on a 2-day volunteer training this weekend, 6 and 7 April. The first day will be at City Hall. The second day will be at Public Works. It'll be from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock on both days. So it'll be a restoration volunteer training. We're trying to get folks educated and involved in the community who can come out and help us volunteer and noxious weeds and other issues we have in the community. So that'll be a good training. I will be there, and if anybody else wants to be there, please contact me and I can get you linked in on that.
Hey, Matthew, I was wondering, since April 26th is a Friday, that kind of eliminates a lot of people who work, who might want to help plant trees. So is
Yeah.
this gonna be just sort of kind of like the city kind of doing it then? And whoever is not working on Friday?
Yeah, and I originally had it scheduled on Saturday, but there's just too many other conflicts. I know it does cut down on a lot of folks that can join us, but with everything else going on, that's going to be the better fit. So we're hoping that we can have some folks come out and join us on Friday the 26th. And if not, then we'll put all the trees in the ground either way.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I know there is April 20th, because Earth Day is April 22nd, technically.
Mm.
But that's just, I'm just tossing that out, really.
Yeah, I'm in Grand Junction that weekend.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
yeah, we've kind of moved it around a couple of times. This is kind of where to end up sitting.
Okay.
So next year it'll probably be on a Saturday, but this year we'll go for a Friday and see what folks can join us.
Okay. Do you have a time maybe for that?
Oh, I'd imagine 9 in the morning, 9 to noon or something like that. We'll get a press release out here in the next couple of days.
Okay.
Sorry, the next week or so.
Okay. So basically, though, just in the cemetery, right? That's where you're gonna focus?
Yeah, that's what we're going to be focusing on for our Arbor Day celebration planting is 25 trees in the cemetery, diverse species palette, slow growers, fast growers, some weird species. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to be working to turn the cemetery into an informal arboretum. So we're going to have little plant tags and things like that. So folks can come and walk around and see what trees are successful in our area and hopefully encourage folks to plant some fun trees, some different trees.
Okay. Any questions for Matthew? You're gonna have some big trees though, too, right, Matthew?
Huh?
You're gonna have big trees too, though, right? Big mamma jamma
Yeah,
trees? Yeah.
yeah, we'll plant some big trees, some small trees. When you plant a 1-inch tree and a 3-inch tree, in 5 years are the same size. So I do generally plant smaller trees, but some species like cottonwood, they grow so fast it really doesn't matter. So I'm probably going to put in a couple of bigger cottonwoods.
Yeah.
Where appropriate.
Are you
So,
gonna put
yes,
any
we're
more
gonna plant
maples?
probably not a lot of maples. I just haven't observed them be that successful. Plus, particularly in the cemetery, we're looking for a higher species diversity, and it's a ton of large silver maples right now. So we're trying to kind of shift the species composition to a more diverse palette. We'll probably put a couple in around town. I think we've got some spots to be really nice for some maples.
Okay.
So.
Anything else for Matthew? Matthew, do you have anything else?
Oh, I should have mentioned it when Mia was on, but I really appreciate the folks at Horde Coughlin Mock. They've been very patient with me bothering them about all the tree things, and they've been very accommodating. So I really appreciate all the work they put in to save as many trees as possible while still getting all those services in. They had to revise a lot of things. So I really appreciate all the work they put in there.
Yeah. They did a great job. They do a great job.
Yeah. So pleased to see that happen. And I will be inspecting how the trees are doing frequently, just like I am with the library project. So trying to keep my finger on the pulse.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Matthew.
Not a problem. I'll probably rattle off unless y'all need me for anything else.
I think we're good.
Thanks, Matthew.
Okay, Park and Rec Advisory Board report. Manuel Polita received a $14,400 grant, match grant, but is contingent on council approval of the Flats Master Plan for 2024. So, if we can get that done this year, Manuel can get his grant money to start his 7-stone cairn sculpture. And council also approved the memorial bench for 7 Minute Springs. And that's all I have for parks reports. Natalie, council liaison?
Hello, sorry I was late. I ran over to the women's club for their little fundraiser. So the only thing I wanted to mention was that tomorrow the council is going to be doing a proclamation for Soil Save, and I wasn't sure if you all were tracking that just in terms of how that, I would say is connected to our parks and community in general. I do want to mention that I know I talked a little earlier to Janu about this, but the idea of that, we have a lot of different people working on a lot of different projects, and how can we potentially bring all of these ideas together and maybe even look at like an Earth Day proclamation that really encompasses more than just sort of individual proclamations. But I think soil is important, and it's kind of an international proclamation, which is unusual, but is interesting. So that's all I have to share for this meeting, unless there's any questions.
Do you or Jillian have any information on that so that Para kind of knows what you're talking about? I know the mayor sent us some stuff, but
Yeah, I'm sure. Hang on, let me see. I know I have.
just so that everybody sort of has an idea of what we're talking about when we say save soil.
Yeah, no, it comes out of, there's a guru out of India that has started this movement, and a lot of it is around sort of agriculture, and I think they were thinking in terms of Manitou, in the sense that our food isn't grown locally, so the soil even outside of Manitou is important in terms of our success as a community. Let me see. Yeah, I can just kind of, I guess I can, it's not very long. I can just read it really quick, but Save Soil is a global movement launched by Indian environmental leader and author Sadhguru, who is that is uniting world leaders, visionaries, and citizens of all nations behind a common purpose to restore and safeguard the world's soil. And Save Soil aims to address the global erosion and soil crisis, recognizing that 52% of the world's agricultural soils are degraded, and by 2050, 90% of the Earth's soil could be degraded. And whereas addressing soil degradation issues would bring solutions for the loss of biodiversity, nutritional deficiencies, food security, water scarcity, climate change, and mass migration. Let's see. Basically, they're just, again, it's a proclamation to make April 5th a Save the Soil Day in Manitou Springs, as soil is vital to all life, and we urge all citizens to promote soil restoration. So that's kind of the gist of it. So yeah, like I said, I mean, how that connects to everything else that we're doing and our pollinators and whatnot, I think, as we know, again, it is all connected. So, so how do we kind of support all these different ideas, maybe all together? And I don't know, it's just interesting opportunity. And I think an opportunity to actually do an Earth Day proclamation as well, because I don't think we have one in the mix as far as I know.
I would like to see it become part of an overall kind of umbrella thing included for Earth Day proclamation. Have this Save Soil be part of that, of the Earth Day proclamation, as well as Arbor Day and pollinators, something like that.
It's a nice problem to have, right? All these different folks. So.
Does anybody have any comment or thoughts on that, Save Soil?
All right, excellent. Well, thank you all.
Okay, thanks, Natalie. We have the Open Space Advisory Committee approved minutes. And let's move on to Jillian, your director's report for the Park and Rec Department.
All right, let me share my screen. There we go. All right, Danu, give me a thumbs up if you can see that.
Yep, thumbs up.
Okay, thanks. All right, so our pickleball and tennis court windscreens should be in tomorrow. So we aim to have those installed no later than this Friday. We're gonna have the parks maintenance crew put them on the west and south side of the court. That's the mountain side and the creek side. So those will be up and we'll get public feedback, I'm sure, hopefully positive. And just wanted to let you know those are coming in. We did sign a 3-year agreement with the Organic Lawn Care. The company's spacing from my brain right now.
Clean Air Lawn.
Clean Air Lawn Care, yes. So Steve started work last week. He's going to be maintaining Fields, 7 Minute Spring, Memorial, and Bill Bowers this year. We just finished draining and cleaning and refilling Shriver Pond. I'm not sure if any of you got to go out to the pond last week and see the crew literally in there with tool
Oh, you're
cats.
cutting out. I'm losing you, Jillian.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Maybe it's just
Okay.
me.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll try to go a little slower.
No, I actually lost connection with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
The parks maintenance crew and our streets crew, they worked together last week to drain the pond, clean it out, and it's refilled now. So the water is much cleaner. It's draining a lot cleaner into Fountain Creek. Nothing crazy was found in the pond. So that was kind of a good surprise. And we did make sure to keep the trout and the turtles that are living in the pond safe while we were draining it. We're going to be installing an all abilities swing at Bill Bowers Park. That's to replace the broken wheelchair accessible swing that we took down last fall after it was damaged. Our Tree City USA status has been renewed. So Matthew submitted our renewal application last year and it was approved for 2023. So I should have mentioned that while Matthew was on, but that's a good thing. And then we currently have our summer baseball registration open. So if you know anyone who's interested, I know the T-ball, I think, is full at this point, but there are spots available in all the other age categories. And that's just a picture of the flyer that Megan came up with for baseball. And then I did include our division updates from our parks maintenance team and our pool and fitness center, which I think is important to have in here because we're parks and recreation. So keeping our pool in the loop with Parab will be a good thing. And I won't read these bullet point by bullet point because these were included in the packet. But if anyone has any questions on these, I'm happy to answer them. I don't know if you've seen the temporary shoring at the pool. It's the giant wooden beams that are holding up those back 2 sections in the large pool room. It's pretty impressive. And those will be up until we get full repairs on the pool roof.
Thanks for including the pool. I'd love to even hear more about recreation as part of our meetings.
Awesome. Yeah, I can do that for sure. And sometimes I forget too. We get so wrapped up in parks maintenance, but there is a lot going on the rec side. So I'll make sure to include that.
Yeah, and a lot of that is thanks to your efforts. I really appreciate what you're doing, and getting more rec in what we do is exciting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, Jillian, I think we should invite the new pool was it the pool director?
Aquatics manager, Phil.
Aquatics manager. Yeah, Phil. Yeah, good. I should invite him to one of our meetings so he can introduce himself.
That would be awesome.
That would be good for us to meet him. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and by the way, the pool is now fully, I don't know if I mentioned this at the last meeting, the pool is now fully staffed with full-time staff, and it hasn't been fully staffed since I started last June. So I'm pretty excited about that. Phil has a great crew, and we're hiring a few more seasonal lifeguards, but that's about it. So pretty awesome for the pool.
That is great. Okay, any questions for Jillian? Okay.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Jillian. For our old business, I have Soda Springs Phase 2 approval, and that's basically approving the plan that Mia presented to us. I know she's probably gonna look into some of the things that you brought up, Tim, and maybe look at the things that you brought up, Chris. But overall, do you all approve of the basic design of Soda Springs Phase 2?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board with the design.
All right, great. So I'd like to make a motion that Parab approves the Soda Springs Phase 2 approval, no, design, sorry. Soda Springs Phase 2 design approval. All in favor?
Should we either include in that or in a follow-on motion that we are waiting additional information about feasibility of park and ride installation and replacement of plastic slide with metal slide?
Sure. Sure. Tim, you want to go
Just
ahead
so
and
it
make the
doesn't get
motion
lost.
then?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make the motion with that amendment if that was clear. Candace, was that clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll second that, Tim. Okay, all in favor?
Yay.
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, Jillian, moving on to approval of the location of the new chess table. And Colin couldn't make it tonight.
Do you want me to share my screen and pull up the picture of the locations?
Please, yes.
Okay, one
Because
moment.
when Colin and I went, he only was concentrating on one area. And Colin and I were looking around and we came up with the second area that you showed on your pictures.
Okay, one moment. Working on it. There we go. I think the image is really big. Let me find it. All right, so we narrowed it down to a couple of different locations. Would love to hear Parab's thoughts. We ended up holding 2 different site visits, so thanks to those who could come out. The first location is, so what you're seeing here, the oval represents the chess table itself. This is on the, I want to say the east side of the pond in Shriver Park. And so the table would be right between where Josh and Tim are standing here. Second location that was identified is on the creek side of Shriver Park, near this existing picnic table here. And I think the thought with this one was that this location would provide a bit more shade when the tree is leafed out. So these were the 2 locations that were narrowed down by the site visits that we held recently.
Right. Anybody have thoughts, opinions?
And I'll say park staff support either of these spots. So we're happy with whatever direction Parab wants to go with this.
Right. I would just say, Jillian, that in this particular location, that the chess table would be moved closer to the path to make it easier for ADA access. And then maybe moving that existing picnic table farther away from it. Like maybe put the existing picnic table where you're showing the chess table. And then move
Like
the chess.
swap them out.
Yeah, and then move the chess table closer to the path, so if somebody's in a wheelchair, they can access the chess table easier.
Right, and wherever the chess table goes, we will need to have at least a crushed refined path going towards it to make it actually fully accessible. So I think swapping them, Danu, if we go with this location, is a really good idea because we get a lot of use out of that existing picnic table.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to scroll back up to option A here.
Pair of opinions?
Option B.
First of
I
all,
think
is
whichever,
everybody? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I
I'm
think
sorry.
either, yeah, whichever, I think both sites look good. From my standpoint, I think whichever site is the easiest from an accessibility standpoint would be the only thing I would weigh in on.
Mhm. Candace, you walk this park a lot. Do you have any preference or opinion?
And well, I love the idea of it being in that little island. However, I think getting a wheelchair down there, even if there's like a little path, once you get down to that bridge, I think it's kind of rough to wheel down there. There's a hill, it's on, kind of rocky, sandy, uneven ground. So like in terms of accessibility, I think your best bet is to put it closer to that parking lot. Unless you want to, create a nice little path.
Is it one of
going-
these locations or are you thinking of a different spot?
No, I'm just working with your A and B. Yeah. So this one, it would be a lot easier for someone to get to. The other one, there's, as I said, there's like this hill or something. I don't know. It's dirt. You can't see it in these pictures. The part that it's across from, Subway on the side, and it kind of dips, and I think it would be a little rough. I don't know. I've never ridden in a wheelchair, so I don't know how difficult that would be.
You're
to
over by
navigate.
Subway? Candace, you're over by Subway?
Am I over by Subway?
Are you thinking
What?
about, are you thinking about over by Subway?
Oh no, so you know where on the side of Subway when you walk into Shriver Park?
Yes.
Okay, so next to the driveway. So there's like all that it's just unfinished like dirt, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And so then you kind of like have to go down like a hill a bit just to get over to the bridge that goes into the island.
Now the picnic table isn't actually on the island. It sits on the shore of the island where those other existing picnic tables are. Not in this location, but in the one before that. Jillian, the one
Yes.
that's right?
Right.
Okay,
Then so I'm
this one,
saying,
yeah.
I'm saying that one's the A is better for accessibility. If you want it in the island, which I think would be lovely, I think it would be harder. It would be harder for somebody in a wheelchair.
Well, actually, you see where the picnic table is right behind the circle here? Can you see that picnic table sitting there? Yeah, that's where the chess table would go.
Yeah, that would be more accessible is what I'm saying, rather than
Oh,
that's not the island.
Right, that's not the island.
That's the island.
When that is the picnic table that Jillian just showed you. That's sitting behind the other place. So that isn't on the island.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
Candace,
sorry.
neither of these are the
I'm really
island.
Sorry, I'm
Right.
really confused. No wonder
This-
you were confused.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Oh,
Okay.
then either place would be great.
Okay.
I don't know which. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. You shouldn't ask me, see?
That's all right. That's right. All right. Chris or Rebecca or Dave? Are you familiar with these locations at all? Or do you have an opinion?
No, I think you've selected two great spots and whichever works for me.
Okay. Chris?
I'm here. I think either one looks good. Maybe is either one provide better shade or
I think this location that's on the screen now provides more shade.
Also, I wasn't at either site visit, so I think whoever perhaps was there, maybe if they have any thoughts, that'd be great, but
Okay.
yeah.
Dave, do you have any thoughts? Do you know what we're talking about? I know you've
Yeah,
been going up-
definitely. Yeah, of course. I would say the shady spot looks like a better location for me, and I think it would be more conducive for people hanging around there.
Okay. All right, and then Jan didn't really care either. And then I guess Colin and I like this spot. But we're having to be closer to the path. And maybe swapping those picnic tables around. So,
If there's no difference and one has shade, then let's do the one with the shade.
okay. Is everybody all right with that?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, Jillian, do you want us to vote on that, or can we just kind of go with wherever place is the easiest to access the chess table and where it's the shadiest? How's that?
That sounds good. I don't know if we need a vote on this. Did we vote on the I know we have the table style picked out, but did we vote, did Para vote on that?
No, but I think we were all in agreement.
Okay, then yeah, that's fine. And I mean, worst comes to worst, we can always move it's very heavy, but we can always move the table if the location just doesn't end up working out and we need to relocate. But yeah, I think the shadier spot in this picnic area would be great.
Plus where this location is, it's really close to that footbridge that goes to the rec center. So if somebody was in a wheelchair coming across that bridge, they could just continue on the path and just access the chess table right off that path there. You want to show them where the path is, Jillian?
This
Yeah,
path?
Yeah, that path.
Yeah, and I think regardless of where we put the chess table, we're gonna need to build a small path out to it. We don't
Right.
want to put it right on the path.
No, but near there, and then connect have a continuous crusher fines kind of thing coming off of the path.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, this is exciting. We're gonna get that table ordered. This is
Okay.
awesome. This has been like a project since June.
I know, and Colin's not here. Okay,
right.
old business item number 3, art walk on the creek walk. Tim, you want to go ahead and talk about this?
Yeah, thanks, Danu. I had a great meeting last month with Audrey Gray and Mary Snyder from Crane to talk about supporting putting up art in parks or along the Creek Walk Trail. They are very excited about art installations, or for what they call 2D art, which I have to confess I thought maybe was a pejorative before I met with them, but apparently it's totally okay to say 2D art. So paintings, photography, drawings, that sort of thing, not sculpture. In installations along the Creek Walk Trail. We talked about potential scope of starting with between maybe 3 and 5 installations to begin with a goal of potentially putting many more installations along the Creek Walk Trail once that's something that is fully established. They felt that they would be able to source the art via a call for artists, and whether or not we wanted to limit it geographically to maybe Manitou Springs and Colorado Springs versus Front Range versus more regional is something that we can discuss. They felt that they could probably source artwork within just 1 to 2 weeks of putting out a call because they feel like there would be a lot of interest in this project. They did recommend putting up a stipend for the artist rather than setting up a contest like I had originally presented, which is what the Winter Park and Fraser Art Walk does. They suggested a stipend of about $300 essentially to cover artists' supplies for this type of project. They felt like with that type of stipend, it would it would be enough to get a lot of interest and get some good artwork up quickly. They also offered to cover the cost of a web designer in order to create a QR code on the art or on the frame that would link to the Crane website or to something equivalent for Manitou to help to give information about the artist, maybe where someone could view the art, and also where that could potentially be located along the Creek Walk Trail. And then we also discussed potential locations, which frankly would ultimately, I think, be up to us. But they had talked about how they are already sponsoring a mural that is going to go on the creek-facing part of the chamber building. And they thought that using a part of the Creek Walk Trail that was near there might work well for activating that space, either immediately west or immediately east of it, since there was already going to be, that art project happening there. So, so that was the meeting. So we have a very, very motivated partner, which would be key to sourcing the art. They think that this is a great opportunity to get a medium out there that we've not really done in the past. A lot of the public work that we do is sculpture, and could be a great opportunity to grow this to the future to help to activate the Creek Walk when this is something that goes from east to west in Manitou. We had talked previously about the cost of the actual installation. Jillian, we'd had some conversations about ballpark estimates for the actual frames and installation being maybe a few $100s, and then depending, of course, on materials, and then of course printing. And Jillian, please correct me, I forget if you had said that's something that could be printed on metal like a sign, or if it would be printed on vinyl, but that's something that we could potentially handle within the city.
So we can print, basically what we do is our sign shop prints an image on, I really don't know the material, but we lay the image on that aluminum sign material. So that's currently how our sign shop works. And the measurements are, it can be up to 48 inches wide, and as long as the roll of vinyl or whatever it's being printed on. So really the only limit is width. 48 inches is the width limit.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't know that. So that would be information that we would need, would be dimension limits. And then also materials. They have experience printing on vinyl. They said that in their experience, vinyl printing lasts from 3 to 5 years, depending on sun exposure. Metal would probably last longer, but I don't know what's available and what that would do to influence cost.
This would be a really good project for Crane to apply for a match grant. And unfortunately, Match has given out all their money that they have for this year. Maybe it would be good if we looked at applying for a match grant for next year and really get all our costs in order and explore the type of material that we can use for making the art stands. I'd like to do metal. Be a lot less maintenance and it would be a lot more durable. And
for the stands. Yeah, that's
yes.
a good idea. But I would have to say, I would like to, I think that there's a lot of excitement. I think that I think that this is something that's achievable, at least in terms of a small project and proof of concept. And I'd be interested to hear what everybody else says, but I think that it is within our grasp to get this started this year.
Well, Tim, the money is the problem. I mean, where are we going to get the funding? That's what I'm talking about.
I think we could afford a few $1,000s to get this started.
If we do the Creek Walk, that won't meet the Conservation Trust Fund criteria. That what Crane could do is they could apply to PARB for a mini grant, but we'd only be able to give them $1,000. That's why I'm saying it'd be better to look at a larger funding source, getting some kind of a grant, or maybe Natalie, do you know of any other funding source where Crane could maybe look for getting some extra money for this art project?
I would bet that if Match, I mean, I don't know what the budget is, so it's kind of hard to talk about
Right.
right now. But I bet Crane could match whatever you all came up with. So if you were able to give them a mini grant for 1,000, I would guess that they could match that. So I don't know what you could do for 2,000. I just don't know what the numbers look like right now.
Right, and that's why we have to get a little bit more detail on the cost of the everything, pretty
Mhm.
much.
Yeah, but there's always opportunities. I mean, I could come up with some folks, so.
Yeah, so maybe we could start really small, Tim, like do a pilot. Like maybe we could only fund maybe 1 or 2 of them to start with. If you wanted
That's
to try to do
disappointing.
that for this year.
I think that's a little small. I think we could easily do 4 or 5, and I think especially if there's funding there that they might be able to match. I think we could do 4 or 5, including artist stipends, for $3,000 to $4,000 total. If we were coming up with 50% of that, that seems to be feasible. And I think looking for the future, this could be a great way to build more relationships between PARB and Crane and PARB and artists, which I think is something that ties back to our citizens' goals as stated in our post plan, and getting more art in our parks, and getting more opportunities to showcase the creativity in our region. So I don't know what else would we need to do? Or first of all, I'd say I would like to hear what everybody else has to think about it, and then from there, I'd want to see more of what we could potentially have available in our budget, and see that this is something that we could maybe get going on a slightly faster time scale than, say, the chess table. And by slightly, I mean 2 months rather than a year.
So with the art installations, right? Because Danu, you said you wanted metal simply because it'd last longer and it'd be more, expensive probably than what Jillian can come up with. But are we looking for these to be permanent exhibits, or I thought we were going to rotate them out so it wouldn't matter longevity wise what material we used? But am I mistaken?
I think ideally this is something that could be reused. Whether they rotate out on a seasonal basis, I think, is another discussion that would probably extend the life of them. But I think ultimately reusability would be key.
I was sort of thinking that once the art stand was installed, it was going to be permanent, and then the artwork would rotate out. Am I not envisioning that correctly?
I think it depends on how we want to install it. I think that it's conceivable that this is something that could be a temporary installation on top of some sort of in-ground sleeve that could be put up and down.
Dave, Chris, anybody have some thoughts on this? Natalie, Candace? I think we need to do a lot more homework and do a lot more exploration to see, what's available, and come up with an idea or a plan. And that'll make it easier to pin it down in terms of cost. Natalie?
Would it help if we brought someone in from Crane for the next meeting to kind of talk through what they could do on their end? Because if they are willing to do the bulk of it, and you all would just need to be supportive, and I think you could move faster, but I honestly have no idea what they're thinking, so.
Mhm.
I'd like to see a
Yeah, I mean, I
picture.
support,
I'd like to see a picture of what something like this would look like. Just a
Candace,
picture.
did you look at the Fraser Winter Park art trail from the link that I had supplied, I think either the last meeting or before? Or if
No, I
not,
didn't.
if you just
No.
do an internet search for
Okay,
Fraser Winter Park art trail,
all right,
and you'll see some great examples of what this could look like.
okay.
And then I would want to add, though, in that unlike that, this would not be, at least initially, a contest with an award for a winner, but is something that would provide, as I said, a stipend for the artists that were selected to cover their supplies. And then eventually it could turn into something different. But in the interest of getting established artists interested in making the effort to make this something, a quality project up front, Crane really felt that a stipend would be more effective than a contest.
so Candace, I was taking a walk through town the other day, and across from the Mac, where all the cars park on an angle, I noticed that the parking department have these metal signs that they bolted to the sidewalk. That's what made me think that that would work good for these art installations. That, we could get like 2 or 3, see what one of them cost, and maybe have 2 or 3 kind of made, if we have the monies, to whatever size that the artwork would have to be. And then they would, you'd be able to get the artwork, change the artwork out of the frames. That's why I was thinking of leaving the frames in place, Tim, and then swapping out the artwork. I thought that that would be a lot less labor intensive. Instead of,
Whatever works,
Yeah.
whatever makes the most sense as far as the logistics go. That's not my area of expertise, but I could see it working in multiple ways.
yeah. So maybe exploring more of the practical aspects of it first, and then maybe just coming up with the plan or the idea of what we want this to look like, and then we can start putting some costs to it. And then we can go back and talk to Crane and see how much they would be able to put in to make this happen. And then maybe Manitou or our mini grants could throw in, our $1,000 match for that. I mean, that would be
Well,
a start.
can we get some
right?
clarification on whether or not we can this is something that we can pull from our budget?
Well, we can't pull it from the Conservation Trust Fund because it's not a capital improvement. It's not a maintenance thing.
Well, what about that item that we have every year for art and parks? What is that?
That's art in the parks.
Okay. How is
And this
this
would be
different?
art along the creek walk, and the creek walk is in a park.
But it's under our purview.
Well, it's not really. I mean, it's as a recreational thing, like doing the maintenance on the creek walk. Like I know that one year we helped pay
Well, is
for.
that something that we can get clarification from the city? Because alternatively, we could put this along the Creek Walk Trail that runs through one of our parks.
Well, we could do that.
Yeah, like Shriver's, or not Shriver, but well, Shriver would work too, but Fields Park has quite a lot of length there. Or even Soda Springs. But anyway, I'm in support of it, Tim. I think it sounds great. I think it'd be great to have Crane, either come to a meeting and talk about how they could support this project. I'm also thinking about like a match grant. Like, would that be appropriate? But like the city can't give money to the city. So I don't know if the city can give money to Crane.
Actually, Chris, the match already gave money to Crane, and that's what's funding the mural that
Right.
that Tim was just talking about. I think they got like a little over $3,000 from the match grant.
Right, so in like future years, I mean, that could be a possibility.
Right,
But for this year, perhaps we could look at our budget for art in the parks. What does that look like?
that would be possible. And then maybe if you wanted to do one along the creek walk, we could do it through a $1,000 mini grant. For Crane.
Yeah, so it sounds maybe, I mean, I think it's a really great idea. I also like that it's not a contest. That's the good component, but maybe even for next month or by next month, we can get some idea of the costs and then we could invite them to come, Crane to come and chat with us, just so we can get the ball rolling. And even if it's a couple to start with, then we could get the impetus going then for the following years, you know, like maybe do 2 or 3, or just to figure out the cost for that and then include it in our master plan or whatever our budget is next year. I don't know. I do like the idea and I want to get it moving, but I don't know.
I think we could get Crane to attend the next meeting. And forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but they felt that they could conceivably get this up and running in terms of artist selection and submission by the end of June, if that was possible on our end.
Well, Tim, how much time do you have to do some research?
I've got time. What do we need?
Well, first of all, we need to decide on the material for the stands, what they're gonna look like. And then it would be easy enough to install, you know, if we do metal, then they'll last a lot longer, and then it wouldn't be a big deal just to, install a metal stand, in the dirt, or throw a little concrete in there if need be. But also, we'd have to be able to design the stand so that we can pull the artwork out and insert a new piece of artwork to keep swapping everything around. And then we'd have to get with Crane and nail down a size, so we would know what size to make the frames, things like that.
Danu, you mentioned the signs that parking has by the diagonal parking. So we're
Right.
getting a quote right now from Smart Sign. They're the company that did those signs. So I'm happy to
The
just
stands, you mean?
ask them. Yeah, the stands. I'm happy to get a
Okay.
quote and ask them, like, can you make one that we can make the art interchangeable? What would that look like? So I'll do that homework.
Okay, great, Jillian.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'll see if I can find out who the point of contact is for the Fraser Winter Park project and discover what they spent and what materials they used and what decision that they made and why in order to present it that way. I think that will probably be helpful to inform us in terms of where to go next.
Tim, I think they made theirs out of wood, if I remember correctly.
They did
Yeah.
make it out of wood. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear their experience and what they think. They could also probably give us some good information about any recommendations and experience with width, or rather just dimensions in general in terms of visibility and effect.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, why don't you see what kind of information you can get from them, and then we'll talk about that next month you guys want to talk about that? In May? Okay. All right.
All right.
Anything
Thanks,
else?
everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Okay, is there anybody else would like to talk about anything for other business or add to any of this discussion that we've had so far? No, if not, then I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? Do I need a second?
I second.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hitting the wrong button to unmute. Thanks, Kim.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Good night.